the Unlearning Ableism podcast, sponsored by Evenbreak, making the uncomfortable comfortable. Isn't it time we started unlearning? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The Unlearning Ableism podcast, sponsored by Evenbreak.
Hello. That was chaotic as a start. Just to say, if I seem out of breath, I just got a Christmas delivery to the door, and my dog was like having none of it. She was like, "Get away from the door! Daddy's about to do live." Oh, Celia, it's International Day of Persons with Disability / Disabled People tomorrow, December 3rd. And we are doing an extravaganza.
The extravaganza. You can't say it's extravaganza. It's extravaganza.
Extravaganza. I feel like Hermione and Harry Potter.
No, it's extravaganza, darling.
Darling, love it. But yes, we're here celebrating for, is this our last episode of 2024?
It is. Can you believe it? It's the last one.
How did we get here?
What a year we've had. We'll kick it off quickly, just as a quick introduction for everybody. If you need closed captions, there is a button below where you can press that and closed captioning will come up. Quick visual description of myself. I am a white female. I'm wearing clear glasses, a bit of makeup on because I look awful. I've got dyed blonde hair. I'm wearing a blue jumper with daisies on it and some dungarees. And I'm sat in a cream room and there is a window behind me. And for anybody using closed captions, I'm speaking with a strong Southern English accent is how I would describe my accent. But take your pick and tell me how it is.
And for myself, I am sat in my office. I am Jamie. My pronouns are he, him. I'm a white male who's made even more whiter with a selfie light that's sitting on my desk blinding me. My eyes are blue. They like to dance side to side. I have dark hair, which is hairsprayed within an inch of my life because it needs a haircut. I have a short, dark beard that probably also needs a haircut. And I'm wearing a blue jumper. And I started off by saying I'm in my office because I'm excited because behind me, I have my Christmas decorations, but I've also turned my garland into the purple sock garland for International Day of People with Disabilities, because if anyone who doesn't know, you need to be wearing your purple tomorrow on behalf of Parallel Lifestyle, who is helping raise funds for disabled people in the workplace, disabled entrepreneurs, and supporting organisations like the British Associated of Employment, the British Association of Supported Employment, got it that time, and those funds are helping transform real change in the community. So please wear purple tomorrow. Go get your own purple socks. Like, look at these, they're so pretty.
So for anybody that hasn't bought them yet, the website is, and I've written it down, so I'm going to read it out.
Proud.
www.bamboooclothing.co.uk/purple sock day. And I'm going to do something really embarrassing, but I am wearing my purple socks.
I have the same purple pair of socks, the same pair that you have on you, but I'm not showing mine because I'm on camera, and yes, I look all lovely and dressed from this top half, but we both know I'm sat in my Christmas pajama bottoms right now, and ain't nobody seeing my Christmas pajamas at this time. But yes, get involved, whether you are a person with lived experience yourself, whether you're somebody looking to support an ally, or whether you just want a bit of purple in your wardrobe, get yourself a pair of BAM Parallel Lifestyle socks. They all are purple orientated. They are bamboo as well, which makes for a really comfy.
They are and I'm not just saying this, they are the comfiest socks you will ever buy in your entire life. And they go to an amazing cause, and you can wear them again next year, wear them to your office, wear them around the house, wear them walking the dog, whatever it may be. But please show your support tomorrow for International Day. Doesn't it feel a bit like a birthday? It feels really, when you're really in the kind of disability space, the 3rd of December feels like a birthday or something. It's like you anticipate it all year, and then it comes and it's all exciting and all wonderful. I think I prefer over Pride Month.
See, I think, do you know what? See, for me, but when I didn't know what the significance of International Day was, I kind of didn't really think about it twice. And I can remember the first workplace was, I was working at AMS, and they sent out an email, and it was around, share your story if you're somebody who feels comfortable to around International Day and being disabled. And I can remember just sitting there being like, YOLO, I'm going to post it in. And I did it. And it was like the first kind of significant International Day I've had. And I think since then, that was only 5 or 6 years ago, Like, I know I'm 21, but still. But I think for me, I'm just like the significance once you're in that space and you see the meaning it has to people, you see the change, you see how it should be done, and then you see how it shouldn't be done. And it's like, I just love this, and I feel like it's an extra birthday, so it is every year.
And we love
But,
apple socks.
but
He's
what is
amazing.
the significance? Oh, 100%. And like, shout out to Andrew from Parallel Style, those socks, and just everything you do, we're such big fans of. Celia, what is the significance of International Day of People with Disability, though? Because for anybody listening, what is the significance?
So it's very multifaceted. Okay. So the first, kind of stripping it back, the first thing that it celebrates is it recognises the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. I know there is that slight shift of language there, but the UN does use the word persons with disabilities, but insert your preferred identity there. But that is how we will be referring it to. So please don't take that as us not recognising difference in identity, but using the UN language. So the first thing it does is it recognises the convention. And it's a time of year, it's around Pride Month, they do it as well. But the 3rd of December is to specifically recognise, I think it's 52 countries which have adopted the Charter officially. There are also some other countries which are kind of supporters and they're on their progression to adopting the convention entirely. But the United Nations Convention is a massive and very poignant thing for the disabled community because it cements and it sets a precedent and it sets a standards of acceptable behaviour towards disabled people and how countries should be taking accountability and responsibility for implementing that. It's monitored very closely by the UN Disability Committee, so you can be held accountable for your actions. So that's the first thing the 3rd of December kind of signifies. The second thing, and I'm going to read it out, so there is a theme every single year. This year's theme is amplifying the leadership of persons with disabilities for an inclusive and sustainable future. So tomorrow is all about not only raising awareness around disability, raising the conversation around disability, but also setting into motion what we're going to do next year. It's almost like a New Year's resolution at the end of the year. How are we going to do and be better in the year moving forward as a united world trying to improve the rights of disabled people? There are lots of places in the world, unfortunately, that are doing much worse in terms of progression than where we are at the moment in the UK. Are we anywhere near where we need to be? Absolutely not. But also the 3rd of December is a chance for more developed countries in terms of their disability human rights to bring on board more countries and signify this is how we do it and this is how you can be doing it too. So there are lots of different avenues that the 3rd of December takes down. But for us as disabled people, it's like a birthday. It's a celebration. It's a chance and opportunity to shout it from the rooftops if we're comfortable in doing so, raise awareness, see other people's stories, connect with people. And there's always incredible events going on and amazing charities doing incredible work. But in a nutshell, the 3rd of December. The 3rd day on your advent calendar now takes a different meaning.
I love that. Like, I think December is my favourite month because we have International Day. And then I am just a sucker for Christmas, so I'm like anything bright and twinkly. And then it's also your birthday on Christmas Day. So like December is just like a little neat package to wrap up your year, so it is.
I know. For anyone that doesn't know, my birthday is Christmas Day. So I know it's like some people say, oh my gosh, that's the worst day to have your birthday. It has its ups and its downs, all right? But yeah, I'm by birth, Christmas, absolutely mad. Christmas mad. I am the baby Jesus.
This is how we're meant to be. You are the baby, by the way. We'll not say that again, but yes, you are. Because for me, you are just incredible. And I get to celebrate Christmas with my bestie now. And it means I get to send more presents and I get to colour coordinate them. I just love anything to do with Christmas. I'm conscious, though, that we have a really jam-packed show today. See what I did there, Jam, James? So cheesy. So we have a jam-packed show today, and we are having, as we said, an extravaganza, darling. So we are on live today for an hour and a half. Now, I'm conscious that we, with a new platform, don't always get to see the comments. Celia, do you have the comments that you want to check in?
I do. You beat me to it. I just want to reply to Kay, who's looking for the caption button. on LinkedIn, it should be at the bottom in the bottom bar. David, if you're in the comments, would you be able to direct Kay to where that is? Rachel was also asking about it. And somebody is asking, I can't see your name, sorry, because sometimes it redacts out. Do the socks ship internationally? Yes, they do. Head on over to the BAM clothing website and they will ship absolutely anywhere. And if you're struggling to make a purchase, contact Andrew Douglas, who is the mastermind and the powerhouse behind Purple Socks. If somebody's able to tag him in the comments so he can see that, that would be brilliant. Thank you.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for that. And like, as we said, this Purple Socks, it's one way of supporting the disabled community. It's one way of wearing purple to represent disability. As we know, purple is associated with disability. The purple pound, aka the spending power of disabled people. Purple light up. Purple is our colour. So get your purple socks and show some support. Also, they make for a really great Christmas present. I brought so many home from my conference last week where I seen Andrew, and everybody's getting a pair because I could see what it'd be for a family photo at Christmas, all wearing the same socks. You know, stunning. But before we go any further, we have to bring out our sponsor and have a conversation with the sponsor like we do in every podcast. It helps us set the tone. It helps us catch up. And I think we've got some exciting news from Adam today, who's rejoining us. So let's bring Adam from Even Break out onto the stage. Big warm welcome for Adam.
Hi, Adam.
Hey, hi. Good evening. How are you doing?
We're good. We're good. We'll pretend we haven't spoken backstage.
What are you talking? There's a backstage?
There's no backstage. I don't know what you're talking about.
Indeed.
The VIP lounge. Adam, do you want to do a quick hello, an introduction, and visual description of yourself for the guests?
Sure, thank you, Jenny. I'm Adam Holland. I am the Chief Engagement Officer at Even Break. I present as a white male with short, dark brown hair, and I am wearing a white Persia, and I am really excited to be part of this extravaganza.
Love the pronunciation.
Extravaganza. Do you know what? Once you say it once, you can't unhear it and you can't unsay it. So when you're sitting tonight, Adam, at like 12 o'clock and wake up saying extravaganza, don't blame us, blame RuPaul, because we've taken it from RuPaul.
Love it.
Adam, how are things at Even Break? What is the news? What is the gossip? How are you wrapping up 2024?
Well, we're certainly wrapping up 2024 with a bang. And I should say, happy Industrial Day of person with disabilities / disabled people.
Gotta get that in there.
You gotta get the slash in, Adam.
It's quite a mouthful, isn't it?
Yep.
And yeah, so we're rubbing 2024 up with a bang. I can't believe that we're kind of booking meetings in now for 2025 already. It feels a bit unreal. I don't know whether you've gone, but it's been amazing. We've again had a really amazing number of talented disabled people signing up to the job board, and jobs. We've got more employers joining us as members, wanting that access to disabled talent, which is just amazing. And it's been a really busy end of the year, and we have launched our podcast called Include Now, which is exciting.
So I love the name Include Now, and I wonder, am I allowed to ask this? So where did the name come from? Because it just is a cry for action, isn't it, really?
It's a really good question, and there were hundreds of names that the team came up with, and after a long debate with the producer and Josh, who is the co-host, we came to Include Now because of that, exactly that. We wanted to wanted it to be a cool to action, because I think one of my leadership idols, if you like, is John Amici, and he says inclusion is not a journey, because people's lives are being lived now. And I think, if I'm honest with you, I've been guilty of using that line of inclusion in the journey. I think when we do that, what we're almost saying is, we know we need to do it, but we do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Actually, tomorrow now is not good enough. In 2024, 2025, we need to do more now. So it's about creating that now.
I think that's such a brilliant phrase, and I think everybody can take that away with them today, especially on International Day. You know, lots of us had that thing, don't we, where we create New Year's resolutions because for some reason, when the calendar ticks over, we feel like it gives us more motivation to do something. International Day is that motivation. It's that New Year's resolution. It's your action point. It's your starting day if you're looking for a starting day. So I really thank you for mentioning that kind of the day before of. I think people forget when we have the conversation around disability that it's not just a conversation and it's not a theory. People are actually living these circumstances every single day, and every barrier we are trying to pull down, we have to live them every single day. Jamie and I talk about that quite a lot. Of sometimes it can be very difficult to work in the disabled community space because we talk about it all day and then we have to go and live it as well the rest of the day. So I thank you for mentioning that. And you guys have certainly entered the year with a bang. For anybody that missed it last week as well, you were explaining to us that Jane has basically been traveling the world, conquering the world, branching out to some incredible countries. So you guys are up to amazing work. And Gemma has very kindly put in the chat the link to Even Break. So if you are a disabled person looking for a new job or just fancy a look around to see what's on the market, because you don't want to tell your employer you're actually looking for a job, or you are someone that employs people and you are looking to hire more disabled people and look to how you can be more inclusive as an organisation, head on over to Even Break or message Gemma or message Adam or anybody in the team, and they'll be more than happy to have a conversation with you.
100%. And Adam, I'm conscious because this will be the last time we see you in 2024. We'll probably have meetings, but like on a live, this is the last time we'll see you in a live setting. And we want to ask, so we always talk about New Year's resolutions. What's one thing or one inclusive thing that you're going to take action for 2025?
Oh, that is a good question. I think for me, it's about making sure that buzzwords or meaningful words in the inclusion sphere actually mean something. So I think buzzwords like self-care and psychological safety. Again, if we can talk about these things that are really important, then we need to actually do it. So again, going on the lines of doing it now and including now, is making sure that we don't just slip into that buzzword bingo. It's about using inclusive leadership and actually doing it on a day-to-day level.
Yeah. What a bomb to end on.
Mic drop!
Yay!
I'm not going to mic drop because my pen will disappear or it'll bounce off and hit me in the face, so we're not going to do it. But Adam, thank you so much for joining us for extravaganza. And as we said, we do apologise if the word extravaganza gets stuck in your head. But from us, thank you so much for joining us again. And we hope the rest of December is magical for you. But most importantly, we hope that people take the rallying call of Include Now from Even Break. And as I said, the link is in the chat. If you're a disabled job seeker, go check out Even Break. If you're an employer looking to hire disabled talent or looking to make inclusive change, reach out to Even Break because they can support you too. Adam, we're going to love and leave you. Have a fabulous rest of the day.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Yeah, bye.
I love getting Even Break on here. There's so much happening. It's like, it's our personal window into Even Break because obviously we're doing so much at once. And when we get that catch up, it's like, how Mason, you're doing over there. And you forget to stop and appreciate.
Jamie, something we haven't mentioned that we have.
Oh no.
where am I going on Thursday on behalf of Disabled by Society? Because we haven't been talking about it.
Ooh, I know you're going to the RIDI Awards. For anyone who's unsure of what the RIDI Awards are, they are the Recruitment Industry Disability Initiative Awards, which celebrates employers and organisations and individuals who are making change to the way they attract, retain, and develop disabled people. And we're in 3 categories. 3.
I know, not to toot our own horn, but we're very proud of ourselves, aren't we? So
100%.
yeah, that's amazing.
100%. And you're going to be there in person. I will be joining online. Maybe after this chat ends, can share the link into joining if anybody wants to join in watching virtually. I think it's probably too late to get a ticket for the in-person event. But Celia will be there, and so will James, and it will be an extravaganza. We expect loads of photos, Celia.
I'll do my best. You know how I feel about having my photo taken.
To be honest, I do, because we had a photo shoot. As we shared the last time we were live, we had a photo shoot. Oh no, we were about to go to a photo shoot. It was an experience. It was fabulous. Big shout out to Forever Photos and Annette, who works there, who is neurodivergent and just absolutely made so much time for us. We had so much fun, and we can't wait to share the photos with you as well.
I know, but who have we got to bring on next in the extra? How many times can we say extravaganza? Someone can tally.
I'm gonna say about 10 times every 15 minutes.
Okay, I'll go with that. All right, Death, I'll let him introduce himself, but I'm so pleased to welcome Nathan, who is very active on LinkedIn and doing the most incredible things, and I'll let him introduce himself. But welcome everybody to Nathan.
Hi, Nathan.
Hi. Oh, we can't hear you.
Hi, it's
there we go.
It's such a pleasure to be on your show, folks. My name is Nathan Chung. My pronouns are he, him. Visual description: I am an Asian male with short black hair and glasses and headphones, wearing a Hawaiian shirt from my native land of Hawaii, where I'm originally from. I'm a neurodivergent person diagnosed later in life with autism, ADHD, lexithymia, and complex PTSD.
We're so happy to have you, Nathan, because Nathan, I have followed you what feels like forever, and we've been like revolving doors, passing each other, neglecting each other's posts or commenting. And every time I do a podcast or beta podcast, I'm always like, we need to get Nathan on, because I love the chance that we get to connect with people we don't really ever get to we get to meet in our day-to-day, because obviously we're in different parts of the world. So I'm ecstatic you're here. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And tomorrow, well, December 3rd is International Day of People with Disabilities / Disabled People. How many times can we say that one, Celia? And Nathan, I want to ask, because obviously within our communities, there are people who will say, this is such a tokenistic day, we don't need it. There will be people who will advocate for this day and think this is so needed. And then there'll be people who'll be on the fence who think, it's just another day. I don't really mind, or I need it. Just really don't have a formed opinion yet. So I want to ask you, is International Day significant to you?
Absolutely. It's very much needed, because so for me, I work in the tech field. Up to 50% of the tech workforce are neurodivergent. So there's so many people with disabilities in the tech workforce. So that's why for me personally, it does affect me and all those people, because we're out there. A lot of people don't want to hide and mask, but we're out there. So it's a very important day.
100%. And I think it's the recognition of being able to see it, isn't it? Because when I think I shared the start of this here, and I think you were in the backstage, you may have heard me saying about, I didn't really understand the significance of it until I first contributed to it myself and put my own story out there. And then I think it was like, oh my God, there's other people doing this. Because I wasn't the only one who responded to that work email. Other people had. And before you know it, you're like, I'm not so alone in this big organization. And I just love what you said about, you showed a statistic there about how many people are neurodivergent within the tech space. And I think that the tech space is predominantly an area where you expect it to be so much more fast-paced because it's the likes of AI technology, but really it's quite still the molds are still being broken, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Actually, I'm happy you brought that up, because for the people with disabilities, AI has been a huge boon for the disability community, like ChatGPT, captions, assistive technology, and accessibility as well. Yet there's a huge barrier a lot of people don't talk about, and that is cybersecurity, because all those technologies use AI, and me like working in cybersecurity, that's a huge security risk. So a lot of people don't realize because of that, a lot of these technologies are being, a lot of organizations are saying, sorry, we can't do that. We can't give you access to the technology, which is really sad. So people don't talk about that much now, but it's going to be it's going to get more attention in the coming year because it's a barrier. It needs to be addressed.
And I think it's really interesting as well. So obviously anybody that has an iPhone will probably know this, but the latest update on the iPhone, which came out a couple of days ago, is now when you receive a voicemail and someone leaves a voicemail, it automatically transcribes it into text underneath. This is an incredible accessibility feature and something that so many people have been longing for so long. But what I find really interesting about the tech space is so often things aren't marketed with an accessibility perspective. It's almost like, here, everybody, this is for all of you. And accessibility, as we know, is for everybody. We look at Alexa, we look at Siri. I hope I haven't just set mine off there. All of these things started as pieces of accessible technology. But I'd love your perspective on this because I find it really interesting to watch, is the fact that it's not that people don't care, but is if you add the word disability and you add the word accessibility in there, then suddenly it's not a cool feature development. It's something to shoehorn away. But if that kind of wording is stripped away and it's advertised as for the masses and for everybody and doesn't have that word inclusion and disability, everybody goes, wow, this is amazing. This is fantastic. Gets loads of publicizing. Everybody knows about it. I got a notification on my phone that said, this is what's new in voicemails. They don't do that when there's a new accessibility feature. Why do you think that's happening? Do you think it is still a point in case of the fact that people just don't care enough about accessibility in the tech space? Or is it a case of there's not enough disabled people leading behind these things and actually we need to break down barriers so more disabled people can be involved in that conversation? Or is it both?
It's a long conversation.
I know.
See, high level in the tech field, like the tools we use, like everything, it's very much inaccessible for people with disabilities. Here's something to think about. The English language itself, it's a barrier for people because think about it, most of the people on the planet don't speak English, but yet despite all the technology tools we use today, predominantly English. We use English keyboards, everything's built in English. That's makes things inaccessible. But yeah, with AI doing things, like it makes things very accessible. It opens a lot of doors, but as a cybersecurity professional such as myself, it's a nightmare because think about it, like, do you want AI to know like all about your personal life, who you're seeing, who you're dating, your private information? It's a nightmare. But my personal prediction, it'll be probably similar to the internet. When it first came out, same thing. Huge technology promise. Everyone was excited. It's going to bring all these changes. But over time, then security, after a while, then the security caught up and started locking things down. I predict AI will be similar, and it'll be more secure. But at the same time, big question mark will be what will be the cost to accessibility and for people like us with disability. I think there's going to be a hit, and it's coming.
And I think we're already seeing that actually now because I've been looking at platforms and obviously now there's so much AI to help you with video editing. And I think if you're somebody who does a podcast, somebody creates content, we all have looked into this. At least out of curiosity. Like I can remember sitting in a call when ChatGPT had started around the images and it was generating images and we were all sitting around trying it out and we were all like, oh, what is this? This is bananas. And then when you now look at some of the platforms I was looking at, and I can't even remember the names of the ones I was looking at now, which is probably good because I don't want to call nobody out, but like to add captions to the video, which would have been an accessible kind of type of caption, it was costing more money to take that as almost an additional. And it was like, you're now cashing in on accessibility. And what you're actually doing in turn is you're promoting, oh yeah, you can stylize these captions. But what you're not telling us is that actually 99% of those captions that you stylize and showing are going to be inaccessible for the majority of people. So it's like, where do we draw that line? Like, how do we continue to educate people about accessibility? But when they've been given kind of like, oh, pay here to get more or pay here to stylize, people's going to get tricked into it. Because that's what happens while I'm buying, isn't it? We get tricked into it and we think we're doing right when actually we just create more barriers.
That's a good question. For everyday consumers, they're just going to accept the cybersecurity risk because the benefits outweigh the costs. Like just having those features and making things more accessible for you, that you're going to think this is awesome. This is more important than the risk to your personal information, your number, and privacy. But in the corporate world, this is where the corporate world is where you're going to see the biggest hit of all. Like, example, if you know, if you have a friend that wants to work at a organization and you want like captions, like for me, like just turn on captions for anyone. But because a lot of captions nowadays use AI, organizations that I see myself where organizations will look at that and say, wait, we cannot have AI touching like personal confidential information. So what I predict is it's a problem now, and the default many organizations will be saying no, we can't allow you to do that. But over time, the key is going to be just building more stronger security control. Things like when you talk about like general stuff like this, like we're talking now, that's fine. But as soon as you start talking into like private, secret stuff, information, stop and perhaps use a more secure AI, secure captioning model. Kind of like, you can think of it as a genie. It's good to have a genie helping you and providing for your daily needs outside the company. But once you're inside the company, maybe the key probably would be to hire your own genie to be in-house. That'll do the AI functions, but keep everything within their corporate control. I've seen this starting to happen myself, and it's going to grow.
I think as well, I think you've kind of summarized it perfectly, the genie. I love that analogy. And I think a lot of people can take that and kind of use that as a way to explain a lot of people. So that analogy is brilliant. Kind of bringing the conversation to your own experiences. You mentioned there at the beginning that 50% of the space that you work in is neurodivergent. And that's an incredible number of people, considering we're here in the UK, it's 1 in 4, but globally it's 16%. I was wondering if you could talk us through what are the biggest barriers that you have faced, and your advice to anybody that's looking to go into the tech space that has a disability or is neurodivergent or has any other difference, to use kind of language that people feel comfortable with, whatever language people choose to identify with. We always put the annex in there so nobody feels excluded from the conversation. But what are the biggest barriers that you have faced? And also, what would be your advice for anybody that's looking to go into the tech space about how we can tear those barriers down, both from an internal perspective, but what as individuals we can do when entering that space?
Ooh, that would be a long conversation. But high level, the tech field, think of it this way, like similar to the university itself, it's predominantly male dominant because majority of people who get a diagnosis like in autism, ADHD, dyslexia, dyspraxia, it tends to be predominantly male. So similarly in the tech and cyber fields, it's predominantly male. So it's ironic. For me personally, I think some of the biggest barriers have been the perception that if you have a disability, you hit the wall of ableism. It's like running a factory. Well, you have a disability. You clearly can't work in a factory. But I look at the other way. Look at the strengths instead of focusing on what a person cannot do. Focus on what they can do. Like for example, specialization. For example, in the army, or because a person is good at shooting artillery, does not mean a person is good at running on a warship. It's a very different skill set. It doesn't mean the person is disabled. This just means they're different. I think we as a society and organization needs to think in that sense as well. We're just different, and we need to accept that.
100%. And I think as well, difference is often seen as less than. So difference means less than, or people view it as not good enough. And I think that's where the kind of the assumptions come in that, oh, if you're neurodivergent, you're not going to be able to do this. And in fact, I've had managers tell me I can't do something because I'm disabled. And I sit there and think, you telling me I can't do it makes me want to do it that much harder. Not just to prove you wrong, but equally just to be able to look back and be like, nobody can define what I do. I define it myself. And I think it's so important that we kind of we have the space to have those uncomfortable conversations, to challenge those assumptions. And I think this is, for me, is why International Day of Persons with Disability, I think it's so important that we have those conversations. And I want to ask you, in the space of in the tech space, have you encountered much ableism yourself?
Yes, tons of ableism. It's because, again, as soon as there's any sign, because being neurodivergent, sometimes it feels like there's a sign in me that says I'm different, and usually that's enough for people to discriminate. I like to use the X-Men as an analogy. Like, if anyone's grown up watching the X-Men TV show or comics, a person who's different is gonna make people feel at least uncomfortable, and at the more extreme, hostile. I think, and the other big point I wanted to bring up is the biggest workplace trend, especially like in the US, is a lot of jobs, like a lot of people with disabilities like me, we rely on remote jobs. Yet the trend is RTO, back in the office, everyone back in the office. And people with disabilities are going to get hurt by that, but that's the trend. Companies, I don't want to get into it too much, but high level, companies are doing it because they want to control the workforce and at the same time reassert control over the workers. Because they feel that a boss needs iron-fisted control over their workers. It's wrong. The individuals need to have the ability to work the way they want. And for maybe people with disabilities, that's a remote job, because not all of us can get on a tube and go to the office, or many of us have responsibilities at home, kids, parents at home, etc. Like, that's my big ask for organizations. If you want to help people with disabilities to get a job, keep the remote job. Do not take it away.
I think it's really interesting because I'm a bit of a history buff. I love learning about history. It's very interesting to look at the kind of progression of how we've got to the social structure of working that we've got to now. Go kind of cast your minds back to pre-industrial revolution. And I know I'm speaking with a very Western privilege here. I've been living in a country that has been through that industrial revolution historically and not currently going through it. But we would get up with the sun, we'd go to bed when we were tired, we'd eat when we were hungry, and we wouldn't eat when we weren't hungry. And when the industrialization came and we had the revolutions, and we're thinking kind of chimneys and Victorian workhouses and awful treatment of disabled people, what we did was we started structuring our days based off large organizations that had an oligopoly. And an oligopoly means basically they controlled a whole sectors on their own. So you had one person earning multiple factories, and they'd say, right, I want this time for everybody to work. At halfway through the day, we'll sit and have something to eat because you're probably going to be hungry, and then we'll end at this time. And lunch was formed at 12 till 1, and getting up and being in the office by night. All of those trends were formed. But we think about the fact that we're still hanging on to that in 2024. And I ask you why. Obviously, there are some sectors where that kind of flow of pattern needs to happen, such as in the retail sector. But in jobs like technology, where, as you say, so much of the talent, so much of the workforce comes from a community that needs that flexible working. But also, flexible working isn't just for disabled people. As you said, it's for parents, it's for guardians, it's for carers, it's people that might need to make doctor's appointments but don't necessarily categorize themselves as disabled. It's so women who, during their time of the month, during menopause, during their periods, can take time off and can have that flexibility of being from home. It applies to so many people. And my biggest question, whenever we're working with organizations where they say, well, we can't do flexible working, it doesn't really work. My question is always, why? If the job is done, why does it matter where the hours were and where that person was at the time if it makes no difference? And COVID was horrific and awful and an absolute tragedy. But the one positive we took from it was the power of flexible working and the fact that if we want to, we can. So I suppose my next question to you is why do you think there is still this barrier where people can't work from home, they need to be in the office, and it has to be 9 to 5 or 9 to 6? Why do you think people are still so stuck in that? Is it this fear of breaking away from normality, and we don't want to break the mold because we think the mold is working, even though it really isn't?
That's another long conversation. But high level, first, people are human. Like, a lot of people, managers that run these organizations, they follow a very, historic / systematic way of doing things. Like, go to school, become managers, and they're just used to doing things how things were. So with COVID and remote work, they don't like that because it disrupts and changes things. People don't like change. Just like when London burned down, like back in the day, what do? They could have improved things, but no, they pretty much rebuilt the exact same way. It's human nature. That's number one. And number two, let's see, it's to reassert control, because people working remotely, you have the control and you have control over their own lives. A lot of organizations don't like that because where's the trust? That says a lot. And number three, it's for some organization, it's a silent, convenient way to cost cuts, because you look at the state things in chat, layoffs. There's so many layoffs. A lot of people I know are just they haven't had, they lost their job and they still can't find a job a year later. It's really sad. Yet people are talking all these jobs. People are still recovering. I think with the current, how you say, state of the world, things will get better. Not today, maybe next year, but people still need to recover and get their lives back on track. And I just feel bad that remote work is going away for many organizations. People are gonna get hurt and continue to get hurt as more and more remote jobs go away.
100%. And I think like with organizations as well, it's almost like, not that said, keeping up with the Joneses, where like they're trying to keep up with each other. And I think when you see these big influential, well, we say influential CEOs of these big large organizations, and they're sharing things like, oh, we're trying to mandate the office, or workers working from home is lazy and stuff like that, I think it then kind of creates this following culture where they're like, oh, I need to follow them, I want to do the same as them, which I just find absolutely baffling, because it's just like, create the culture that you want. Don't try to keep up with everybody else. Like, the whole purpose of trying to attract talent to your organization is because you're a great place to work. If you're like every other place to work and every other place is getting it wrong, you're going to get it wrong.
Actually, another thing, I want to chime in real quick. Also, the perception needs to change. Like, for example, we look at certain countries in the world, like even the UK, like I believe MI6, they're actively recruiting Norwegian people like me because they see the benefit. But so one thing I tell people that even the president of the United States understands is neurodivergent people provide it's a competitive advantage, and that's becoming a national security issue. But we in the US, we demonize people like me. You think, hey, you're broken, you're this horrible, disgusting person who can't do anything. It's sad. I think the US needs to wake up and realize it's a benefit. Like as you see in UK, Australia, and Canada, those three countries are doing much better in recognizing neurodivergent talent and the benefits.
I think that's a very powerful statement to make, kind of ending and we thank you so much for coming on. And I want to ask you one final question is, as we all know, because we've said it a million times already, tomorrow is the International Day of Persons with Disabilities / disabled person, insert your chosen identity here. What is one message, one takeaway, one statement that you want to make that everyone should remember tomorrow and moving forward into 2025? And then what would be your 2025 resolution about more inclusive world?
Ooh, that's a long one. I think Heidel, it's something that from one show I used to watch where they said, there is no normal. We're all different. We need to understand that we're all different, and everyone should be treated different. Not bad, but as individuals. As individuals, we should all be treated as individuals. And for 2025, my prediction is it's going to be a rough road with the current political change in the U.S. and DEI under attack. It's going to be a very rough road next year. At the very least, I hope we can maintain the gains the disability community has made over the past several years and just hold the line, so to speak. I think if we can hold the line, that will be a huge plus next year.
I love that. I love that, hold the line. Because it kind of, like, even breaks include now, it's like a rallying call. And I think this is what, for me, International Day can be, particularly for those of us in the community. Because let's face it, a lot of us are burnt out when it comes to this time of year. Like, we are like scraping the bar to get their energy out there. Like, I'm using energy that I have taken from October and haven't caught up with energy. Like, we're all kind of at that end if you're like, please, let's do a break for a while. And I think sometimes hearing that rallying call or hearing conversations with other people and just knowing that you almost have, not physically have somebody to lock arms with, but, to have somebody standing beside you who's there to support you. And I think that's such a beautiful takeaway, Nathan. And I think, thank you so much for coming on here and for joining us. And we will definitely see you in the future because we're constantly in each other's news feeds. And now that you've been on, you're now a guest of the show who we will not let go.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Nathan.
you. Thank you for having me on the show.
National Day tomorrow.
Lovely to see you.
Bye.
I love that.
I love that too. And do you know what? It kind of got me thinking about representation. So it did, because obviously representation in different spaces. Like, Nathan was saying about the tax base not having that representation of neurodivergence or even disability. And we know as well, traditionally, it was women who were non-represented there too. And when you think about things that intersectional lens, it just kind of opens your mind up as a white person to be like, there's so much privilege that we hold. And I think a message for white disabled people for International Day should be, think beyond our own privilege and how we can lend our voice support to people who are facing multiple oppressions.
Yeah.
And talking of representation, so I have to say this because we all know I love a good musical. Well, I don't really love a good musical, but I do love a good sing-along. And I went to see Wicked, so I did, which was... I'm not going to sit and make this podcast about Wicked because I could probably do that and I'd probably try to sing. And I promise Celia won't.
Like, hold the space?
Oh, it does hold space, though. It held so much space. And I'm going to be honest, my partner and me went to see it, so we did last night, Saturday night. And I was like, this is exciting. I haven't been to cinema in ages. What I wasn't prepared for, though, firstly, before I started about the movie, is the cost of cinema these days. Back when I was growing up, which, as I said, I like 21, but it's a lot longer than that, 20 odd years ago, I can remember going to cinema with like a $5 and getting in for a $5 and then a $5 for my popcorn and drink. You do not get that no more, so you don't, which is absolutely frustrating. Because for me and my partner to go to the cinema, get our tickets, get our drinks, we spent over £50 in the cinema, which is a lot of money. And like, I was not prepared for it. I was like losing money in my savings account as I was trying to pay for the popcorn, having a heart attack. But it was a lot. But I have to say, the movie Wicked, it blew my little socks away. Because the representation, so I'm not going to ruin the movie, but there is a disabled character in the movie. She is a wheelchair user and she is the sister of the Green Witch. Now, what I loved about this, because we know disability representation is sometimes done as either we're portrayed as the villains, and there's something wrong with this, there's a facial indifference, there's a limb difference, or we're the villain suddenly, or they do it to be in a way that was really inspirational, or like, look at that, look what they've overcome.
Look what we did.
Look what they did.
One of them.
And then you see so many posts following suit about how inspirational this person is. But what I really loved about representation in Wicked was it was so real to the experiences of a disabled person. This wheelchair user was saying, I don't need help, but non-disabled people were just grabbing her and pushing her along, and she was striking to stop. And it was just so well represented. And then I thought about, because I was one of those people when I seen the interviews of the actresses in it. I can't remember the name right now because I'm on the spot. But Cynthia and Ariana, and when I seen them, I was like, oh my God, they're really emotional. What's going on there? And then I watched it and I got the movie because it speaks beyond words. It's so true to representation of disability and the ableism that we experience, but equally around the colour of a person's skin and just how difference is so cast away and almost deemed wicked. Hence the movie Wicked. But I have to say, like, honestly, just 10 out of 10. And I think representation, we know that representation is important. It's International Day of Persons with Disability, but mark my words, tomorrow we will see the same representation from most organisations, which will be a stock photo of a white wheelchair user. It will not represent the diversity of disability. It will fail to go beyond just that white representation of disability. So if you are an organisation listening, or if you're somebody listening, go watch Wicked. But if you're an organisation listening and you're ready to do your social post for tomorrow, please go beyond a white wheelchair user. Show the diversity of disability, show black and brown individuals, show beyond that white experience, and show people with diverse disabilities, people using stimming tools, people using adjustments, people with limb difference, people with diverse disabilities, not just wheelchair users. Do represent them too, of course, but not just them.
I was going to say, don't stop promoting.
Yeah.
People to stop promoting users.
Apologies, that was a tangent.
Well, I just want to add a little segment in here. Because obviously we both live in the United Kingdom, Great Britain, and we therefore have a very kind of, I suppose, segregated experience of disability inclusion and what that looks like. There is a very key word in the day that is tomorrow, which is International Day of Persons with Disabilities. And I think we all need to remember, wherever we are in the world, that we need to recognise countries that are, let's say, much further back in their journeys of disability rights and looking at the privileges that we have, even though our countries aren't perfect. Oh my gosh, absolutely nowhere near. But what privileges can we use that we have living in a country that is further along its progression in terms of disability rights, to look at those countries that are very much at the beginning of their journey of disability rights, and how collectively can we come together. Nathan touched on something there, and I actually have it written in front of me on a picture in front of my desk, which says the only thing we all have in common is the fact that we are all different. And I just wanted to kind of segue that in there, that if you are a country that works on an international level and you have offices at various parts of the country of the world, look at how you can use your privileges living in a country that is more developed in terms of their human rights around disability, and uplift those other countries. So I just want to say that we are having this conversation very much from a premise of being in the United Kingdom and the United States. Yeah.
I'm conscious that we should probably check in with the
Yes.
audience. Now, I do want to caveat, because I know that we have had messages from David, who supports us in the background, saying that there's been an issue with some of the captioning, automated captions on LinkedIn. We, just to disclaim, we have no control over the captions on our side. If the captions aren't appearing as closed captions on LinkedIn, that would be a LinkedIn issue that we'll need to reach out to LinkedIn about after the show. But if you are somebody who was watching, and we'll post this in the comments too, we do share an open captioned video, which means the captions are burnt in 2 weeks after this here live, and then a transcript of the episode will also be shared to the website. So if there is an issue with LinkedIn at the moment, we're really sorry. This is not a great example of accessibility, but unfortunately, this is one of the barriers that we experience having to stream through a third-party platform, which is only way to stream on LinkedIn, which is frustrating.
Normally it does work, so I'm not sure what's happening today, because we always make sure that everything we do is on a platform that's as accessible as possible. So we will look into this and we will have a conversation with them. Mark dropped a comment and said, "I bet I will be the purpose tomorrow." Mark, I bet you will.
I best believe that.
Doesn't know Mark. Last time I saw Mark was at the Shore Trust Awards, and he had a purple mohawk and the iconic purple suit. So everybody keep a lookout for Mark Webb tomorrow on LinkedIn, because I can guarantee there will be some purple action going on. Lots of comments saying hi and congratulations for our Ridley Award nominations, which is very exciting. So we'll post lots of pictures on Thursday at the award ceremony. Tracy said, "Is the podcast on a regular time each week?" So we run once a month. And this is the final one of the year, which is very sad, but it feels like we've done many this year. And depending on our guests, where they are in the world, we do slightly fluctuate the timing, but it's usually around the mid of the month. But in January, we'll be publishing our dates. So keep an eye on our homepage on LinkedIn, where our dates will be available. And would Celia be interested in hosting a fashion show? Sign me up. Drop me a message, Tracy. Amy said she'll be reaching out to Gemma. Hi, Amy. So please do get in contact. I think Gemma's in the comments somewhere as well. And then David has been wonderful replying to comments, and there's lots of highs and hellos.
Highs, hellos, and we appreciate everybody who's commenting and getting involved. Please do share, repost if you can, tag a friend, tag an organisation you think needs to hear these conversations. But yes, it is really exciting, but it's really sad that we're on our last one of the year, because do you remember sitting down in January and being like, let's do a live, let's do this other top secret project we never talk about, we can't talk about yet unless I have a drink in me, I don't talk about. But I remember sitting down and us being like, we want to do something with this, we want to, I'm going to use the word from what you said for Wicked. We wanted to make a space, hold a space where we could have conversations that sometimes are a little bit uncomfortable. Sometimes people who aren't disabled may not necessarily be privy to. So we wanted to really have conversations that reflected the diversity and the experiences and just the diversity of individuals within our communities. And I just want to say, I have loved every single episode. I do not miss doing Tour Month, because that was just absolutely bananas, that we had no time to breathe. But like, I've just loved every second of making these lives all across the year.
Me too, babe. Me too.
And can we talk about, though, before we do anything else, can we just appreciate, it started as a live and then became a podcast. So I'm conscious that we have so many guests that we've had on throughout the year who we now have to bring back on as a live. But thankfully, once you've been a guest on the podcast, you don't get rid of us.
You're part of the family now. I want to say as well, actually, I'll save it towards the end. But I think I want to have I'll say it now. I seeing a lot of stuff banding around at the moment, and I say it's an uncomfortable conversation that needs to be had, but this is the perfect space to have it, because this is exactly what we do, is we make the uncomfortable comfortable. There is a clear, and this is a learning point for everybody, there is a clear difference between equality and equity. And we're going to see this word equality used a lot over the next 24, 48 hours as we head into International Day. And there is a clear distinction. And I feel like a lot of people maybe get confused about the differences between the words, and making sure we're using the right wording tomorrow. So I have a good metaphor to explain what on earth I'm talking about, but it's almost like a little PSA for social media and for organizations tomorrow. So imagine you walk into a shoe shop and there's a big queue of people behind you, and the shoe shop have said everybody can have a free pair of shoes. Absolutely everyone. Walk in, they're all the same shoe, they're all the same color, they're all the same size, it's the same shoe, it's not going to cost you anything, take one and go. That is the quality. Equity is looking at the fact that actually everyone's got different size shoes. Everyone finds different styles of shoes comfortable and uncomfortable. Some people might not be able to get into that shop. Some people might have differences in their foot shape, or they might have a limb difference, or somebody might be a wheelchair user and needs a different type of shoe. Equity is saying everybody can have a free pair of shoes, but we need to make sure that they suit everybody's individual needs. So my reason for saying this is we're going to see the word equality a lot tomorrow. I think the general motivation here is that equity is the tool to achieve equality, and often that word equity and what it means, and being individualistic and being specific and looking at people as individuals, not as a group. Yes, we are the disabled community, but what works for one of us doesn't work for the other. We are so incredibly diverse, and then intersectionality plays a part of that. That any organization that is looking to take action tomorrow and hopefully for the rest of their foreseeable future, please look into understanding the differences between equality and equity, familiarize yourself with them, and make sure that equity is that binding principle that goes forward with you.
Absolutely love that. And I love the shoe analogy, so I do.
I know.
It's
I got it from.
No, I know I know where that metaphor specifically came from, but we can't talk about it. I love it. And I think understanding the difference is so incredibly important, because I think for me, I've been told I've been treated equally. Like, organizations stick those statements, we treat everyone equally, we're great, we're fabulous. But then you get in there and that equally isn't getting adjustments. It's an inaccessible process to get your adjustments. It's managers who can't have conversations around needing that adjustments or how to support you as a disabled person in employment. And that's what the equity is missing. There's not that support. And I just love that analogy. I'm conscious though, because we have another guest.
Someone to bring on.
We have another guest who we're going to bring on, because it is an extravaganza. No, just disclaimer.
No, Jamie, it's an extravaganza.
Extravaganza. And disclaimer, we were intending to have 3 guests on the show today. Unfortunately, one of our guests, Kat, had to pull out last minute. So we're just sending so much love and support to Kat. And we're all here if you need us. So Kat will join us again, I'm pretty sure, at some point in 2025. But for now, let's bring out our next guest. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Let's introduce Lu.
Oh, hi everyone. Hi Celia. Hi Jamie.
I'm so excited you're here.
No, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so honored to be here. I've been following both of your work, individually and together for a while now, and I learned so much from you guys. So thanks for having me here. I'll self-describe. My hair are actually gingerish now. I'm not blonde anymore. Like, I need to update my LinkedIn pictures. So I have white skin. I'm a non-binary person, and I'm wearing a kind of like emerald green hoodie, and I'm streaming from my sofa because my back hurts, and that's my jam. That's how I do it. That's not all.
Do you know, I would love to do. When Celia was over, we did the live from my office sofa, which is a leather sofa, which is so old, and when you move around it, it squeaks. And I would love to do it in the sofa, but I'm conscious that it's going to sound like I fart the whole way through. And then if I did it in my living room, I run the risk of being attacked by my little dog, who generally just jumps up at me constantly to play. So I love that you're on a sofa, and I love that you're prioritizing self-care, because it's so incredibly important, and it's something that we completely forget to do. And we're talking about International Day of Persons with Disability, / disabled people, preferred label there. And I think it's so important that we talk about self-care, because we don't have that conversation.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, I think also, people don't understand that self-care is not something that should be commercialized and sold to you. It should be something that practice, it should be something that we practice every day towards ourselves and other people. And it shows in so many different ways, like not only just about comfort in this case for me, the sofa, but it can show in the words that we use, it can show in the actions that we take for other people. So self-care also, is a concept that we see very, I think it's tied in with the individualism a lot, but I actually try to see it more as a collective effort, and that's why I decided to even share with you sofa, even though if I wanted you to hide it, I probably could, because you can just see a white wall behind me. But it's like, I want people to know you can still, I guess, on a podcast, you can be still a good entrepreneur and do great work, and even if you're on your sofa because your back hurts. And if my back would have hurted way more, I probably would have taken a full day off today. But it doesn't hurt me enough to miss you guys. So I'm here because I love to be here, and I love to be talking with you today.
Thank you. And speaking of great entrepreneur and great work, for anybody that's familiar about the incredible work that you do, please do give everybody a brief rundown. But I also want to talk about mental health, which is one of the biggest things that you champion and you talk about, and you're such an incredible advocate for. I think a lot of people who have not experienced mental health in a very severe way, or somebody that really, really struggles with their internalized ableism or has a very fluctuating nature with their mental health, days like this, where it's a celebration and a chance to take care of ourselves, and it's a chance for our voices to be amplified, to be seen and to be heard, are so powerful. So how do you feel about International Day? And if you could give someone one takeaway from the day, what would it be?
Well, first of all, we definitely need, we still unfortunately need this day to remind us that obviously our society, is still very outdated in the way that, presents itself to all of us, at all levels. And so we do need this day, but also I love the fact that, we celebrate because it's about, that's how it should be. I think that when we talk about diversity in humankind, I think that a good reminder is that we actually should celebrate each other for our diversity, which is something that obviously in a capitalistic system in itself is such a, it's already a way to, to contest like the kind of society and culture that we've been imposed since birth. And so celebration is also a very powerful act of protest. And we learned this from the Pride movement, from the Black movement first, that supported the queer movement, and they really showed us how celebrating each other in our own uniqueness and supporting each other in our own needs really creates a better society, not only on an individualistic level, but really on a collectivistic level. We all have something to gain by helping each other and understanding each other. So I think that's what I want people to realize as, fighting ableism, it's really in our head first and foremost, because I come from a culture, I grew up in Italy, for people that don't know and were wondering where my accent was from. I grew up in Italy, and I spent there 18 years, my first 18 years of life, and then I spent the consecutive 12 in the UK, precisely Scotland. And I've noticed a huge difference, even though the UK obviously still there's so much work to do, and you guys definitely know better than me, but I noticed an incredible difference immediately when I moved to London, in terms of accessible architecture, for example, compared to where I grew up. Where I grew up, you don't have crossing crossing for pedestrians that have traffic lights, or even like the sound, the sound signal. There is a loads of, we don't have any sort of like blind guidelines on the floors for people that are blind. We don't have, so even though my city, for example, had the first bar for blind people, is a bar completely in braille, and there is no lights, it's completely dark, and also is a bar that always invited people that don't have that are not blind to come and experience life as a blind person, to understand why accessibility is important. So even though some people did put effort in my city, bar, for example, was shut down after just a very brief period of time, and I think it's because there is not enough structural support on political, legal, cultural level. So I believe that there are a lot of people that want to do more. I think it's been a struggle for people that are also not in the disabled community to understand how to actualize that. And so I think also a big competition, well, one of the reasons why I was happy to come on this podcast is also because, I feel like on my journey in terms of accepting if I have a disability, if I don't have a disability, Jamie knows a little bit of, my journey of perhaps doing an autism test. I'm still like grasping my own reality with what I experience, especially mental health wise. And so but I think it's important that even people that like me that don't necessarily call themselves disabled or think that they've experienced a disability as strong as other people, I think it's still important that we get involved. I think it's still important that we recognize our own ableism. I think it's still important that everything we do encapsulate DI. And so, thank you for having me here because I'm really, really honored.
I love you so much, so I do. And I feel like I should disagree on this. Lou has seen me at my absolute drunkest, where I thought I was Willow Smith and I was whipping my hair back and forth to the point my neck hurt the next day. And for the moment I met you, like I could unmask with you. And I think it's something that you get when you're around people who get. I don't know what it is. It's not like a sixth sense or something like that, but it's like when you're in that, when you meet somebody and you feel safe, and it's like you take the mask off and breathe. It was like when I met Celia. It's just like you just feel safe in those environments, and whatever you're going to say, it's not going to be judged. It's not going to be used against you. It's an honest conversation, and whether that person is just going to hug you, I think we hugged loads, and then I try to make us do shots. That's a story for another time. But I think it's having somebody there you can really mask with, and I think you talking about do I call myself on a disability? Do I see myself as disabled? And I think that is such a powerful conversation to have because yourselves, like I'm so on, like I tell everybody everything, like everyone knows my business before my business actually happens. But like I think both of you know, like I talked about, I hated being disabled. Like it was this dirty, shameful thing, and like I constantly thought, well, I'm not disabled enough because I've seen people in my class who have Down syndrome. I've seen people who are wheelchair users. And here I am, meant to be blind, and I don't have a guide dog, and I don't have a cane. And I actually think back to last year, the first Shaw's Trust Power 100 I attended, and I was on the list, and I was just like, am I disabled enough? And I know that's such a stupid, silly question because it's internalized ableism. But I can remember thinking that, articulating that to my partner, who was just like, you advocate for disabled people every single day, and you still battle your own internalized ableism. And I think it's something that we never, ever lose. Like, we don't ever suddenly get to a point and be like, okay, I've embraced it, yay, look at me. You're constantly asking, am I enough? Am I okay to label myself this? And we're constantly, I think when we look at global lens, we're constantly checking our own language because we're like, right, I'm in this region and they don't use this language, I can't say this. And we constantly have this fear of getting it wrong. And I think, I don't know where I was going with this. I just got really excited you're here.
Yeah.
I wonder, because we've spoken to Nathan there, and I know you were backstage to speak to Nathan, and I want to talk about, because we didn't see you mentioning, obviously, as when you have compounded layers of oppression, when you have your identities kind of coming together and you're trying to navigate that space, what has that been like for you as a non-binary person, and with your mental health as well? What has that journey been like for you? And honestly, share only what you're comfortable with, no pressure.
Yes, thank you. Gosh, I don't know. I think, it's hard sometimes to destructure it all, I would say, because, again, also the perception that I had when I was younger, when I received most of my discrimination, I was also the most uninformed and uneducated. And also I think that sometimes it's easier to have more compassion for other people and understanding other people's needs before yourself. So like the journey started really when I started working. I was in the UK because I was 18. That's when I started have my first job, and I remember really, starting to notice, for example, architecture is different in city, as more accessible. At that time, I thought disabled people are only physically disabled. Okay, so my idea of this disabled person was for someone on a wheelchair, someone with a cane, someone visibly physically disabled or disabled by society, and that made me realize, oh, maybe I can incorporate that in at work, when I train my teams, because I started to be, I had a manager position within my first 3 months of work. So I was like thrown into management already. I remember looking for informations online about how can you support someone who is blind without touching them, for example, because I noticed that blind people will get touched by randomly, by people that wanted to help directing them, but it was not. Obviously, you're going into someone's personal space without even asking, so there were little things like that I already was thinking, I think we can do better here. We can help our guests better. We can, our customers, anything. And then, because I did never seen myself as disabled, it's only when I had a mental health crisis that I realized how bad our system is in terms of supporting human needs. Because it's not, it's not just a physical disability. Obviously, mental health is also it is a physical disability, but it's less visible, but I think that, because and I'm going to try to tie it in with everything that's been said on this podcast in the last hour, because I liked a lot of the points that you were talking about. So first of all, the fact of learning English for me was an incredible resource to actually access information, to fight ableism in myself and fight ableism in society. Learning English was important to tie that in the discourse, but then that helped me to learn more about mental health and the fact that I always had an anxiety disorder and I never knew. I always had a depressive disorder and I never knew. I had very traumatic experiences when I was little, including, I'm not gonna, but sexual harassment, very things around this, and self-harm at a very young age, all of that. And nobody has ever, no adult, no service at school, nothing has ever prepare me to understand mental health is a reality for many people. There's nothing to be ashamed of, and it's also something that you should ask support for. You should have support for. Obviously, that was not my experience. I ended up, long story short, with not the right medical care, no psychological support in terms of psychotherapy or counseling or anything like that. So that brought me into a spiral at 21 of having a nervous breakdown, losing my job of 3 years, blah blah blah. My life completely went to pieces. And that's when I really had, a really, I think, more of a full understanding of why our society is like this. And that's when I got interested into culture, right? And I got into understanding that in a capitalist society, your worth is measured by how much you produce, theoretically, because actually with data in hand right now, we do know that actually people that are feel safe at workplace and are treated absolutely as they should, supported for whatever need they have, in whatever measure, in whatever extent, and in whatever form that's going to take. We actually have data that shows us that the company is going to be way more productive, way more powerful, resourceful, flexible, innovative, all that sort of stuff. So we already know that is not true anymore. That someone that is neurotypical or doesn't have a typical disability that we consider disability, it's not true that they're statistically more productive. Okay, what we're looking at is, we have a system is designed to take everything that they can from us in terms of labor. So we do live in a society that is not interested in listening to anybody's needs other than people that are at the top and making money on us. So I think that's why there is a strong misunderstanding on disability. I think everybody, and also I think, I don't know, one of you might have made this post as well. I think maybe it might have been Celia actually a while ago, that really stuck with me, because it was a statistic about the fact that most disabled people, physically disabled people, become disabled during their lifetime. They're not born disabled. And that really shocked me, but it also added that extra layer of so we all should care about this, even if we didn't have to face the disability, we should still care, but even more so when we had data hand showing that we all can be literally discarded and chucked out of society for having needs that are not catered to just because someone at the top decided that we're not worthy, you know?
There's so much in there that I want to like highlight and bold on the screen and be like this, and you said so many incredible things. One of the two things that I want to touch on. So go back to the statistic you mentioned. So it's over 80% of disabled people acquire their disability. They're not born with it. And like you said, there's this massive misconception. And Jamie and I always say this phrase of it's not if, it's when. And that's not to scaremonger people, because people then go, oh my God, you're all going to tell me I'm going to be disabled. It's not. But then again, you're immunizing the word, you're making it an ammunition like it's a horrible thing. But you look at the statistics, 1 in 2 people get cancer in their lifetime now. Horrific. And you know, we're working so hard to bring that number down, but someone going through chemotherapy, for example, that's an example of a temporary disability that someone might experience in their lifetime. But as you said, as soon as you shift categories from being non-disabled to disabled, it's like you've gone from yes to oh. And so I always say to people, if you're struggling to find the motivation because for some reason your ethical or moral radar is a little bit skew if and off, just say to yourself for the fact that there's a very high likelihood that I'm going to find myself in that category at some point in my lifetime, and I'm going to have wished I'd done something about it while I had the privilege to be able to. One of the other things that you highlighted so beautifully and so eloquently is around the fact that there's such a misconception around mental health and its significance and its importance. I remember kind of sharing a personal story a couple of years ago when I was told, that's it, no more food, you know, feeding tubes and a little bit of 40 sip, which is calorific drinks for anyone that doesn't know, you know, we're done. The intestines are, we're turning them off now. Like, let's just give up hope and get on the TPN, nothing by mouth anymore. Never did someone say to me, we're going to give you mental health support for the fact that you've been in intensive care for 3 months and you've just been told you're never going to eat or drink again. You've got to go home and figure out how to live in a society that revolves around food and drink. And when I was asking for mental health support, and I was eventually diagnosed as CPTSD because of tubes going God knows where and God knows what, the help that I got didn't understand what had happened to me. And it was very kind of surface level. This is how we treat this. This is how we treat this. And I remember when I was in PTSD therapy, and I've never shared this before kind of publicly, but the therapist I was given, bless her, she was lovely, was very much kind of trying to treat with the attitude of you're no longer there, you're safe, you know, remove yourself from that situation. That has happened in the past. You're removed from that now, you're fine. And I kept saying to her, you're trying to treat me with PTSD like I've, for example, been to war and I've come home and I'm struggling with PTSD as a consequence of my experience. But I'm still going through the very thing that is, and I'm always going to go through it. But you're treating me with the lens like that's happened in the past, and this is how we move on, and this is how we help ourselves, and this is how we find space. And I remember kind of fighting with my doctors who were dealing with my physical disability, saying, find me someone that can understand. And they just couldn't. And it was such a kind of red beacon moment of the support just isn't there. The support, I mean, we all know what CAMS is like. We all know what the emergency health services are like. They're doing their best. And a couple of days ago, you also mentioned there around the working system, the white paper around employment came out. And as a disabled community, we are panicking right now, because this is going to have major implications for ourselves as a disabled community. It's all around getting everybody back into work. Yes, but it's not about us. We're not the problem. It's the barriers that are a problem. But again, it's very medical model language of you need to get back to work. And this is how you get back to work, rather than being like, actually, people can't get into work because of X, Y, and Z. So you touched on so many points and you explained them so beautifully in your own past experiences. But that experience of mental health not being a priority for people around us is unfortunately such a universal experience. And I wonder what your advice would be, both to organizations who are looking to provide better mental health support, but also to individuals who might be struggling right now and don't particularly know where to go or where to get support.
Well, first of all, I'm sorry that happened to you, because I can't even imagine, being so young and having to go through a very big life change and adjustment, incredibly big. And also regarding your body, your sanctuary, must have been really bloody hard. And I know that you also talk a lot about this process even now and like today. And so thanks for sharing that with us, because honestly, I'm absolutely shocked that even in that situation, they didn't have proper support for that. And that's what I want to highlight, like that's the thing, is like we assume as people that don't think they're disabled, whatever, like I didn't experience a physical disability, so I always assume that people with physical disability in the UK would have at least like a decent, like some sort of like medical like support, and clearly that's not the case, like in terms of mental health. And I'm really sorry to hear that, like, because that is absolutely shocking. And I think the UK, in terms of mental health, like you were saying, like, yeah, in terms of mental health support, is going even worse. And the recent politicians, I still remember Rishi Sunak when he came out with all the crap that he said about mental health and stuff. It was really shocking for me to hear that from from bloody prime minister. It was absolutely disgusting. But I think, like, in terms of companies that can afford it, they need to subsidize mental health. Like, they need to pay for mental health counseling and support, and it has to be a 24/7 kind of service. It shouldn't be something that you can only access when you are in an emergency, because that's so disingenuous. You're literally telling people, I don't want you to take time off if you're sick, so here is the counselor, so get yourself sorted and go back to office. That's the narrative I've seen in many companies, and that's not how it should be. First of all, because it's ignorantly counterproductive for the company as a whole. Also because it affects the people around the person that needs support, because if you're signaling your company that you're not going to take care of anyone if something happens in their life, you are damaging everybody else's as well, even if nothing happened to them yet, because they're going to be thinking of they want to work next time, and and that's why I want to I shared that with you, with my experience at 21, because 21 years old, apparently in very good health, good, very privileged background, good education, learning, no bilingual and all of that. And even myself, I found myself in a complete mental health crisis with zero support and lost everything in the process of that when I was just 21. So if that happens to me, that I consider myself a quite, strong person as well in terms of like mentality and stuff, imagine all the people that have had it way far worse than me in terms of background and support and even treatment and discrimination and stuff. We have a very cancerous society, and the fact that we still ignore this to pretend that everybody's okay, because as long as you do what you're told, as long as you dress the way, as long as you speak the way, then you're gonna get the support and all the accolades. I think we need to shift completely from this culture, and we can shift from this culture, but we all need to have that kind of courage to ask for what we need. So I think it's very hard sometimes for people, for myself as well, like reaching out to mental health charities, because now the NHS doesn't do a mental health support. I don't know if you know, but just as recently, I've been through a very traumatic situation that involved someone's death in a month and a half ago. I went to the NHS and I've asked what's the support available right now, and they told me literally nothing. This is a list of charities. Good luck. That was essentially the conversation, and I was like, wow. So if people are suicidal, what are you gonna do? How are you gonna support people? And also the problem with the charities, love the work that charities do. There are issues in these sectors, of course, but I love all the people involved in charities, because they are heroes to me because obviously the economic power of them is not as big as other organizations. But the problem with some of these charities, because they're volunteer based a lot of the time as well, there is very limited type of accessibility. So you can only call within certain time. You have to call, so you have to be comfortable with a call. You have to be able to speak on a phone. There is not a lot of flexibility in terms of accessibility, and that's something I've noticed as well. And once again, what's my advice for people that need mental health support? Gosh, it's really hard to give advice, because I know that it's hard out there, So I think try to find your ways to support yourself and ask for support around you, the people that love you. For example, something very simple I've asked partner is we can body double, because I'm really struggling to work when I'm alone. I'm struggling to like take care of this kind of part of my life. I'm doing way better with other things, like, you know, cleaning the house, things like that. But in terms of working, I'm really, really struggling. So, but I don't want to go to a cafe. I get overstimulated. There is too much lights. There is too many people, blah, blah, blah. It actually works for me. So I just ask someone that loves me, can you body double with me? And that changes the game for me, because I can just sit in a room with someone that loves me and I can actually work. And that really helps, for example. So I think learning about yourself, learning about your needs, because unfortunately there is not going to be a lot of people that will teach about it, unless you follow Celia and Jamie, because they're really good at sharing content on this.
And
Share the
you.
plug.
And you as well.
Grassroots resources, I think, try to find as much as you can. When the system fails you, when the society fails you, go to the grassroots movements, go to people like Celia and Jamie, go to communities like the ones that they've been building, you know, because we can help each other, you know, and we can like keep spreading the better knowledge, a better education, until we have better, you know, I think also like gaining power is a big thing that I will actually recommend people to do. If you are an entrepreneur, take that bloody space, gain power and empower more people, and don't be afraid. And I think we need to, you know, go, my conversations sometimes are a little bit like more, you know, I really believe that we can create our own society and our culture now. And we, you know, in a way, I'm kind of sick of like asking of bigger companies than that to do better, because they should already do better. Like, we shouldn't have to ask. And so if that takes us to build our own companies and lead by example, then I'm in for that. That's my that was a you know, short answer, but that's the thoughts process, right?
That was a mic drop response, and I just want to say, like, I love that though, because like it's true. Like, if you're sitting in the house with somebody else and they're not listening to you, you're not going to continue using the same tone of voice and ask them to whatever it is you're shouting. Like, if my partner David hasn't heard me in the first 2 times I've spoken, you know I'm shouting across that house, and my neighbours here too. Like, it gets to a point where it's like you have to shout. It's just like we can't continue to be nice, to be excluded, because the reality is, we don't learn about ableism until we experience it. We don't learn about how to take care of ourselves, and we don't understand how to prioritize self-care. We don't understand how to challenge our own internalized ableism until we're like almost hanging on to that thread where it's like, I don't know what to do anymore. You're at a breaking point. And I'm just going to say, it's so shit. It's so shit that we have to get to that place, to get to a better place. And I think it's these conversations. And I think like what we aim to do with this podcast we set out in January was, let's make the uncomfortable comfortable, because we see so much positive, fluffy happiness. And I think that's amazing. But sometimes I want to know that somebody's had a bad day and this is what they've done to it, because I'm going to associate to you more because you've been honest. And I'm like, oh my God, if you're making that a comfortable space to talk about this, I'm going to do it too. And I hope this is what people take from this conversation, because what everything you just said there, Lou, like, fudging mic drop. I'm not going to say the F-bomb. Fudging mic drop.
Yeah, we draw the limit at shit, but
yeah, you draw the limit at shit. But in conscious, we have a few minutes left, and I want to ask you, what is one thing that you want everyone to take away for International Day of Persons with Disability, and one thing that you're going to be implementing into 2025 for yourself?
So, well, oh gosh.
No good question.
Thank you so much. Okay, I'll start from implementation, because I've been thinking about this. So now I'm, you know, my work has been focusing on founders and their strategy, and how helping them to trickle down the AI in their organization within operations and sort of strategy work. But I am on the path to build a queer business community. And the main thing I want to, you know, build in this community is, first of all, it's a queer community, as in we are queer thinkers, as in you don't have to consider yourself queer to be in this community, but you do need to be active in terms of DI work and in terms of, you know, the work that we're doing here as well. So that's something definitely that I want to carry on working on myself and working with other people. Definitely, you know, I'll probably carry on with, like, I might get an autism diagnosis. I'm not sure yet. Like, I'm kind of like on the fence about stuff. But for me, it's more about the output that I'm putting through this process. You know, the things that I'm learning and how I'm helping like the community around me, and how I help myself as well. But I want people to take from our conversations, but also the day tomorrow is probably going to be like, remember that we're all connected to each other. Remember that we're all connected to each other for real. Like, it's just so incredibly amazing to be able to live life together and create something good together. And I think a lot of the time people don't approach this work because they're scared, and they're scared of being discriminated, that they're scared of experiencing more discrimination. But do you really want to live a fake life where you never feel safe to be yourself? You never feel safe to learn more. You never feel safe to help others. Is that a society you want to live in? I don't think so. I think we all have to realize that to build a good society, we all have to do. We all have to put some effort. You know.
What a closing statement, Lou. That was incredible. Jamie, you're
Wait.
on mute.
Yeah, muted. You're muted, Jamie.
Of course I am. The blind man can't see the mute button. I'm trying to make the love heart for anyone who's on screen. I've been trying to make the love heart with my hand all year, and I never get it right. I think that's probably the closest I've ever come to it. Lou, so much love for you. And for Nathan.
Millennial love heart. You have to go on the Gen Z. We're on
No,
Gen
that's
Z.
the new way of doing
I
it.
can't do my hands like this. Like,
So hard.
I've got hypermobility. That's never happening.
I'm just going to draw one in the air.
Do it like Disney, like with the
Yeah.
wand. Hi, my name's Jamie, and you're watching Disabled by Society.
I'm part of the Mickey Mouse Club. Lou, thank you so much for joining
Thank
us.
you.
And you are always a friend of the show. You're always a friend to us. And like, this has been magical. So thank you for joining us. And to Nathan, who joined us for our extravaganza. We will let you go and we will start doing closing. But Lou, go check out Nathan, follow them, connect with them, go say hello. Don't just add them and do nothing. Say hello, make that connection.
Thank
you so much.
Bye.
Much love.
Lou.
What an extravaganza!
I know. We're sending, as Jamie said, we're sending all our well wishes to Kat, who couldn't join us today. But will be joining us in the new year. We'll get you on.
New year, new still disabled me.
Yeah. New
Cecilia,
year, same disabilities.
conscious that we're down to the last few moments. Is
Yes.
there any comments that we should read out before we finish? Is there anything we need to check up on?
So our wonderful hidden secret team behind Disabled Society have been posting lots of links, which is amazing. Leah made a really good point. She said, I'm living in Switzerland where accessibility is quite high, but compared to Greece where I grew up, the gap is huge. Diana says, thank you. Leah again says, Ginger looks good, Lou, which I agree.
I agree.
And Mark said, purple shoes in that analogy for me, and we wouldn't expect anything less, Mark.
Mr. Purple. I think that should be his new nickname. Instead of Mr. Grey, it's Mr. Purple. Mr. Grey's definitely not the movie I thought
Jamie,
of.
I
Right?
didn't
Let's
think
move
you
on. Yeah, I don't think so. But Celia, we've come to the last few moments of the Unlearning Ableism podcast, which, let's just go back 12 months. It started as a live. It started twice a month. It was too busy. We started bringing on guests. Things just grew. It became alive. We got sponsored by Even Break. We have launched a business. We still have top secret plans. I don't know if anything left up our sleeves because we've had so much up our sleeves. I'm surprised anything's holding up there. But it's been an incredible year.
It's been a year of incredible highs and incredible lows. I think we can say that. And it feels, I always like the fact that International Day is at the end of the year. And I know, again, Western perspective about calendar months and when New Year's is. But it always feels quite nice to end the year on a bit of a bang with International Day and soak in and enjoy that kind of happiness and positivity around disability before it inevitably will disappear again in January. But woohoo! And then we kick off again in July. So we get those 2 times of the year where everybody loves us. My message, if we could say kind of one thing to close, about one thing to remember. So one takeaway for 2025 and one key thing to remember tomorrow. My one key takeaway for 2025 is really understanding, as we mentioned before, the difference between equity and equality. Yes, we want equality, but equity is the tool to achieve that. And I think people often disregard and we go very blanket and we go, let's give everybody the same thing because that's what everybody wants and that's what we need, right? And that's how we cure things. No, that's not how we fix things. We have to be individualistic and remember people and remember intersectionality as well. Jamie and I say over and over again that we entirely recognise the fact that we're both and we live in the Western world and we live in the 14th most developed country in the world, and that affords us certain privileges. And how my message for tomorrow would be, how can you use the privileges that you have to amplify the messaging of the fact that it's International Day of Disabled People / people with disabilities. And remember the fact that it's not just one day. You may celebrate for one day, but then we have to live the entirety of the rest of the 360 days / 365 days and a quarter. So remember that for you it's a day, for us it's 365 days. So really think about your intention, because intention doesn't always equal consequence. It's about consequence.
Oh, but how do I give a message after that? Like, should I have written something? Do you know what? I'm just going to do the sign at the end of Wicked. No, not really. That would ruin everybody. I'm not going to do it. I cannot. My message is... I know, like, okay, my message is, yes, talking about disability sometimes can be uncomfortable if you don't have the lived experience, if you don't have the acquired experience, and if you're a disabled person or person with disability, you're divergent, / a certain preferred identity there, if you don't have the confidence, if you don't know how to articulate your needs, if you don't know how to make that ask, I think that there's so much lack of awareness. And yes, while progression is made and whilst we see incredible individuals recognised across different award categories, different spaces, it is incredible. And I think we just need to continue amplifying people's voices, because disability isn't this positive, happy ending story. We're not at that ending yet, so we're still very much the basis of this here, where we're trying to transform that change, or for another metaphor, we're trying to turn that pumpkin into an inclusive, non-barrier free zone. And I think having conversations that are comfortable is how we do that, because if something's not uncomfortable, or if we're fully understanding of something, we wouldn't be in the situation we're in. And I think we need to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. So that's my takeaway, is be comfortable with the uncomfortable. And Celia, what's the Wicked sign? Can you do it?
No, I can't. I've not seen the movie, so I'm going No, you can do it, Jamie. You've got to.
I can't sing. And on that is our final. I can't do it. It's like. It's a lot higher.
Captions, enjoy that.
Apologies for anybody who didn't know. That's just wrecked your eardrums. Apologies. But 2025 has been special, and I just want to say thank you to my co-host, my fabulous bestie, and the most influential disabled person in the UK, Celia. You absolute legend. I love this journey with you.
Me too. And I right back at Jamie, and we've had the most incredible year. And we will log off after we say this to make it the powerful statement, but we want to thank all of you who, without being really like about it, who have been the most incredible support, incredible guests that we've had this year, who have provided so much intersectional. Jamie, you're rustling paper during my moving speech.
I didn't even mean to do that. I accidentally tried to move a page and then flipped over the box.
All our incredible guests who have brought so much conversation around intersectionality and so many different areas of disability which often go under-discussed. I can see someone has just commented that they're currently watching from Peru, and that is just incredible that this conversation and this little series in our corner of the internet is breaking down barriers across the world. So to finish, from both of us and from the entire team that work behind the scenes, happy International Day of Persons with Disabilities tomorrow, and we will see you all in 2025.
Well, I'll go into you all in 2025. The Unlearning Ableism podcast is sponsored by Break, an award-winning global social enterprise run entirely by disabled people for disabled people. So if you're looking for a job in an inclusive employer, or you are an organisation looking for disabled talent, find job listings and set up alerts on the Break job board today. Visit evenbreak.co.uk or scan the QR code. The Unlearning Ableism podcast, sponsored by Break.